their due diligence and farmed out a video reacting to the actual interview where the source of this clip has been made. Now it's time to hear Chibi's take on what's going on. Author explains why TBATE is getting a trash anime in interview.
This right here is the offer of the beginning after the end. The
Total
offer
me.
that has created the work that has now gotten an anime adaptation, and to be completely blunt, the anime community's overall reaction to the beginning after the end is not good. I think
not good is probably an understatement. I think people are molding. I think people are complaining and crying. I'm just enjoying it as an anime only, treating this as a shitty isekai with a good story, but it shouldn't be that as an anime, you know?
Everybody has seen it, nobody likes what it's been doing, and it feels like an inferior product in every single way in comparison to the original source. But before I get ahead of myself, I want to listen to this interview, I want you guys to listen to this interview, and then we're going to talk about what was said here, and then expectations versus reality, aka reality, what the anime turned out to be. So this is an interview that was released about 2 months ago, by literally Crunchyroll themselves. You can literally
filtered by the newest comments. I bet there's some heated comments in there.
See it here. It was released by Crunchyroll 2 months ago. This is the actual offer of the beginning after the end. This is a clip from it, and then I'll show a little bit more of it here, but I want you guys to see this clip and all that of what the offer has to say about the anime before obviously it had to release. And it gives a lot of insight into why the anime currently is like it is. So let's get right into that.
I said yes. It's like, let's make it happen. Like when I first got the offer, Crunchyroll wants to do an original co-pro of The Beginning After the End, and I was like, wait, seriously?
Me? My title, me?
Well, me? But I wanted it out there. I wanted, I wanted done. I believe Crunchyroll was looking out for different studios. ACAT was one on the list. And what appealed to, I believe, Crunchyroll, Tapas, and myself, the director knew of my story even before it was pitched.
Really? Okay.
When he and I had a small conversation online over what drew him to The Beginning After the End, it was really all-encompassing, where I could tell that he not only had read the webcomic, but he had researched quite a bit into the novel as well. But with ACAT, one thing that I was reassured by was the fact that I could, be a bit more involved, have more conversations, and really work together to come up with a really strong anime.
Now, there's a little bit more to this that I'm going to play.
And we covered that, right? We watched the entire segment. I gave you a 30-minute video for that. It's just so fucking sad, bro. Straight up got baited by Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll, of course, being the biggest distributor of anime. Even if we talk shit about it and people are leaving the platform and it may look like a dying platform, it is still the platform. And obviously, as an aspiring creator who wants to have an anime adaptation, to get a Crunchyroll deal is significant. From what I heard from the interview, he straight up got set up by Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll, and apparently like Fuji TV was also involved, and Tapas, the platform that the webcomic is published on. They approached him and then hooked them up with Studio ACAT. And then the director of this show, right? Again, if we look at Beginning After the End, you look at Studio ACAT and, the director of this, right? That's all he had to say. The director straight up was like, oh, I read your shit. I see sci-fi. I like it. And he took the words. And I don't really blame him. Just put yourself in his shoes, right? I think that he should have done a little bit more research on the past works of Studio ACAT, as well as the resume of this director, which is not good at all. I don't know why you would think that this anime would be any different from all these fucking mids that's been published.
Before I really talk about it, because it gives more clarity to this conversation. So let's play this clip here.
Kind of resonated with me.
Right.
And, like you said, ACAT is a rising studio. They've had several titles under their belt.
ACAT is the
but another big reason why I wanted to
what titles?
Really invest TBATE into ACAT was the fact that they wanted to put their all into it. And I wouldn't be able to have that same confidence with a bigger studio where they have so many...
The logic makes sense, though. The logic does make sense.
Main IPs, like so many major titles that they have on their roster that they need to also work on.
I think...
It's not stupid. I see his logic. I think he should have still done due diligence and looked at the resume for both the studio and the director working on this. But if you do look at many other, studios, they're working way too much, and usually they get shafted, right? Like JC Staff, for example, a lot of their animes, right? It's not all the same quality because they have so many different projects. But I bet even JC Staff could have done a better job with their B-list team, man, on this anime than Studio ACAT.
This alone is enough to really get some good clarity on where everything went wrong. I think what we can really just chop this up to is someone being naive and honestly not realizing just how a smaller studio could really just take advantage.
Like, again, the logic makes sense. He wanted to not work with big corpa. He wanted to work with small indie creators, I guess, right? And maybe they would care more about it and go all out. And maybe they did go all out, bro. Maybe this studio actually did go all out. And that's the best they can do. You know? What the fuck, bro?
And also, most of the time when it's a smaller studio, yes, it might be a passion project, but usually it could also be for cost-saving measures. The fact that Crunchyroll and Tapas offered
they set him up.
I think in general they knew what they were doing, and they knew it would probably be a cost-saving measure.
Yep, they fucking set him up, bro.
Because it wouldn't be as big of a studio. For instance, let's say like Wit Studios or A1 Pictures, you get the point. So
to be fair, Wit Studio Anime is also fucking bombing. Both Yaiba and Moonrise, bro. Nobody is talking about it.
The fact that they even allowed this to go through, I think just showcases how this offer was taken advantage of and taken for a ride, and it's really sad to me. Now, obviously, I will personally never know the conversations they had behind closed doors.
Yeah, these are just all assumptions, but I think these are assumptions based on not like random shit. We're not just capping here. It's a pattern of behavior. You know how predatory the anime industry is. This makes a lot of sense to me.
For instance, what the offer had, but I think in general, from what my viewpoint on this interview is and what I have seen from the clips and that stuff that's been said, the offer genuinely thought deep down that Studio ACAT, the studio working on the beginning after the end, was going to give their A game. They were going to give their absolute 110% on.
Maybe it is, bro. Maybe the studio's so fucking ass that this is their A game. And if you look at their other works, I mean, if the ratings are anything to talk about, you know, it's better than a 40%, right? Maybe they are right in the studio, bro. See, the numbers are slightly going up from 40% to like 60%, you know? I know that any list and any chart ratings don't really mean much at the end of the day, but still. What the fuck are we doing here, bro?
On the project, and truly believe that because the director obviously read his work, read what the work was, read into the light novel, did some research, and if I was in his shoes, I might also see it in a very positive way. I'm like, yo, so if the director is into my work, then most likely it is in safe hands. But
yeah, and top of that, they also confirmed that like he would, you know, Turtle Me would have close collaboration with the project. So all of these things considered, minus, you know, checking the resume of these two fucking, you know, entities, it sounds like a good project. Sounds like a good deal.
Obviously, at the end of the day, there's just so much more going on than just a director reading your work. You have so many animators and people part of the staff and team that really go into the project that there needs to be more than just the director being on board. I'm not saying that's not important, but there's a lot more. But anyways, the creator of The Beginning After the End got led to believe that because of that, ACAT would be the right studio, which I think is an honest mistake. It is a very honest mistake.
It's naive.
The thing is that as it obviously progressed, he said himself, even in this interview, that he chose ACAT because it was a smaller studio. Not because of cost-saving measures, but because the studio is so small, they're not working on a lot of projects, which means in general...
I wonder why they're a small studio. Like, I get the logic of smaller studio, less projects, maybe they would be a lot more, I don't know, careful, more considerate to the projects they're working on because they want to make it big. And rather than a big corpa that has so many different teams, you know, juggling so many different projects, that the quality would shine through this small studio. Maybe Studio ACAT's just ass, bro. Maybe they're a small studio because they're bad. You ever think about that? Like, rather than thinking that this is like an up-and-coming, hot, rising star, which is clearly not the case based on their resume, I think they're just limited because there's no fucking talent there. It's straight up just a fucking front. It's a front. It's a chop shop. It's a fucking factory to pump out these mids.
would give their 110% focus on the said project, aka the beginning after the end. Because when it comes to other studios, aka let's say for instance A1 Pictures or something,
I would take a third tier A1 Pictures or a JC Staff anime over Studio ACAT, and I bet you, I guarantee you, I know it would be better.
They're working on maybe 4 or 5 projects at once, and they don't have time to spare for everything. And so there's going to be some projects that are just going to be thrown to the wolves and not do as well. And so in this case, the reason why he didn't select probably the bigger studios when he was looking at the list was because he knew that maybe they wouldn't get priority to his project. That's why he gave it to Studio ACAT, which in turn...
And the saddest thing is that low priority in this big corpus would have yielded a better product.
I think is the downfall where the beginning of everything came down is because of that decision. I don't think it's necessarily completely the offer's fault, but there definitely should have been counseling. And I think in general, at least from my...
There should have been a team around him. He's way too ignorant about this. He doesn't know. Like, a Twitter monkey could have told you about this. That like, yo, this studio, I don't know about that, bro. Like, there should have been people around and telling... This is not the studio, bro. This director has not worked on anything compelling in the last couple of years. You're getting set up. This anime will be ass. Do not take this deal. Hold out and wait for a better studio. That's what should have been done. But clearly, he doesn't have that team.
Understanding, because this is just my own interpretation of it. There's no...
Ask his Discord. Unironically, they were talking about the Discord group chats in this interview. I bet you there could have been a random ass college kid in the Discord that could have just told him what needed to be said. Like, bro, I'm a seasonal anime enthusiast and Studio ACAT is not it. Don't do it.
A confirmation to, prove this, but it seems to me like Crunchyroll and Tapas took him for a ride and just wanted to save as much money as possible, but make as much money as they could off the project without spending as much money, so to speak. And
literally rug pulled. That's so fucked up. That's so insidious. And these are still assumptions. We'll never know what actually happened. But I could definitely see a reality where a predatory industry like the anime industry would treat a naive and a young author like this who's clueless, sold him, these promises that sound too good to be true, and then just got rug pulled.
I think in general... It has been the exact opposite. It's done so much damage to the actual product, aka the beginning after the end, with doing such a very bare minimum anime adaptation, that I think that this is going to have a lingering effect, not just, let's say, on the comic, but also on the light novel as well. And I think that it's legitimately sad. It's very sad just to see an offer taken for a ride and actually done in such a disrespectful way.
Straight up hoodwinked in public. And you know what the fucked up thing is? In this interview, and there's no fault I'm placing on these interviewers, but she literally was like saying, oh man, this project's gonna be crazy, bro. First, like the thing is about this anime is that he is technically in this category of like American content published by Tapas to get an anime adaptation. So it's like the first of like for his I guess category. And she was like, man, you're pioneering this. You must be anxious. Like the expectations, man, it's like, it's crazy. The entire interview was this. It's like, holy fuck. 2 months ago, they're already hyping and, talking about potential, like, do you think it's going to meet the standards? Do you think it's going to do well? What do you think the, audience's feedback going to be? if it maybe isn't what people really thought it's going to be. It's so fucking sad.
Wait, now at the end of the day, I'm not the author. I'm not in his shoes. And all I know, for instance, maybe the author is fine with the anime. Maybe the author...
Nah, there's no fucking way that there's any creator that would be fine with this. I could never imagine it, bro. Imagine dedicating your life into this craft, and who knows if TBATE is his first story. But let's assume that the average person takes like first of all, for every one of this that you see on the screen, there's like millions of others who tried and failed. And within that small percentage of people that succeeded, they've also worked on multiple projects, multiple different series that didn't stick the landing. And then you have this. You have an outlier that of all those millions of people that tried and all those different projects that's failed, you find the one that actually reaches not just any regular success, insane levels of success. Imagine dedicating yourself to something like that and then have your magnum opus, your legacy, be tarnished by an anime adaptation like this. I would make a fucking public statement. I would crash out. Fuck Studio 8cat and the director working on this. Fuck Crunchyroll. Cancel this anime. This is ass. Now, I'm sure he's tied by legal obligations and he can't do that, but that's how I be feeling. And I'm not him, but I just can't possibly imagine a creator and artist who would feel that it's just fine, that the anime is mid. There's no way.
Is fine with the anime like it currently is, and if he is, okay, at the end of the day, that's his opinion, that's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If he likes the anime, maybe he's just happy to see it adapted. But I do think that if I was him, I'm not saying I'm not trying to force my emotions onto him, but if I was him and I saw how it turned out, and I saw the community reaction, I would be a little bit devastated. And I think in general,
I low-key might be memeing on Twitter, bro. I low-key might be memeing on Twitter with everyone else, posting the same fucking tweet with the arrow emojis about the camera work, or how there is no TBATE anime. Something.
It's very unfortunate because the beginning after the end, as I've already said in my 2 videos I made on it, it had the potential to be the next Soul Leveling, or at the very least stand alongside of something like Mushoku Tensei or something. But the fact that it's been done in such a poor way, it's killed pretty much any opportunity for the series to ever really blow up in popularity.
Yep.
Because at this point, most people are either going to jump ship, or they're just going to watch it and be like, I'll just go read the original source, and that's about it.
Yeah, at this point, I think we just have a bunch of stragglers who is down to watch the anime because the story is good, right? And they're just treating this as a shitty isekai that just has a good story. And there's plenty of isekais like that, and honestly, I think TBATE the anime, objectively speaking, it's an enjoyable anime to me. Even though it's garbage animation, because the story is so good that I'm like, it's like a 7 out of 10, maybe maximum, right? The production value is probably somewhere between like 6 or like a 5, but like the story is so good that I kind of bump it up to a 7, but still, it's like, it shouldn't be a 7. There's no way this should be a 7. This should be a fucking 9.
And they're not going to really care much about the anime, and I think it's just, like I said, it's damaged it. So this is really sad. This interview that came out really just paints a pretty sad picture about the whole ordeal. I just think that this is just sad, man. That's really the emotions I got from this. It's, at least we finally have confirmation on why the beginning after the end has just been done like it's done. I mean, we could kind of put the pieces together to assume this is what happened, but still, it just, what a tragedy, man. What an absolute tragedy, because this man truly is passionate about his product. He loves his series, and he wants it to be popular. And to see it done like this, I could not imagine if I was him how I would feel.
Robbed in daylight. Devastated.
But I'll leave it at that.
That's pretty much it. TLDR, Turtle Me was maybe a little bit too naive and didn't do his due diligence. He got swindled by Crunchyroll, Tapas, the other platform where they published the webcomic series, and the director. I don't know why you would ever think that Studio 8cat is a rising studio. I don't know why you would think that a small studio like this with such a poor fucking history could put all of their talent in and maybe make a great anime. No, that's never going to be the fucking case. He got lied to. He got robbed. He didn't do his research. There should have been people around him that told him about this is a fucking scam. And at the end of the day, it's straight up this. Fucking sad. This interview, go watch it, honestly. It's a very interesting interview, and it kind of shows more like perspective of what the author is like. And I think there's a lot of lore and details there you could definitely absorb. But at the same time, watching this interview was genuinely so sad because like they're like so hyped up and so excited to see how the anime is going to turn out. And we're basically, 2 weeks into it and we already know how it turned out. Fucking sad. Please go check out Chibi's video. Here's a link to the channel. Give it a like if you did, and I'll see you next time.